Welcome back to The Global Wallet, the show where we turn complex global finance into actionable kitchen table advice. I'm your host, Alex, and today we're tackling a really vital, deeply personal topic that impacts millions of families worldwide. The true, hidden power of the US dollar in remittances. We're talking about that unsettling feeling you get when you send money home and realize your massive effort seems to yield less real value on the ground.
That feeling is so common, Alex. It's the silent anxiety that every migrant worker carries. The sacrifice is 100%, but the impact feels like 70%. We're here to explain why that gap exists and, critically, how to close it.
And we have the perfect person to help us decode this. Joining us today is Dr. Lena Chen. Dr. Chen is a financial analyst specializing in cross-border capital flows and the economics of emerging markets. Lena, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure, Alex. Happy to dive into this.
Lena, let's start with the heart of the matter. Why does this topic, remittances and the dollar, matter so much right now?
Well, the scale is massive. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars annually flowing to low and middle income countries. These aren't just transactions, they are the literal bloodline for families, supporting education, health, and housing. They often exceed foreign aid and even foreign direct investment. But here's the problem. When that dollar lands in the home country, it immediately enters a battlefield against inflation and volatility.
That's a powerful image, a battlefield. And the document we're discussing today uses a great metaphor, the dollar as both an anchor and a barometer. Can you break down that dual role for us?
Absolutely. Think of the dollar as a protective wall, the anchor. Because it's the global reserve currency, it should protect your earnings value against local devaluation. You built that wall with your labor. But simultaneously, it's the barometer. The exchange rate, how many local pesos or lempiras you get, measures the financial health of your home country. A weak local economy means a high exchange rate.
So, in theory, if the exchange rate goes from 20 to 25 local currency units per dollar, that's a win, right? Your family gets 25% more units.
That's the classic Janus Effect, the two-faced dilemma of remittances. On side one, yes, the nominal amount increases, and it looks great on paper. But immediately, side two kicks in, imported inflation, because essential goods, like oil, electronics, or even components for local manufacturing, are priced in USD globally. That strong dollar drives up the cost of everything imported. So the cost of living rises fast, and that initial nominal gain is quickly eaten away.
Right, you might get 25% more currency, but if the basket of groceries you buy with it costs 30% more, you've actually lost ground.
Exactly. You feel richer for a week, and then suddenly the nominal increase doesn't cover the rent or the basic food basket. That leads us straight into the next core issue, volatility.
Volatility is the dollar roller coaster. What drives these dramatic swings, and how does that specifically hit the average recipient?
It's a mix of local and global factors. Think of the exchange rate as a global thermostat. When there's global uncertainty, a war, a pandemic, or most critically, an interest rate hike by the US Federal Reserve, the Fed, the entire world rushes to the dollar as a safe haven. The demand for USD skyrockets, its price climbs, and emerging market currencies weaken.
So your family's purchasing power back home is tied to a meeting that happened in Washington, D.C.?
Precisely. And locally, factors like fiscal deficit or political instability also push the local currency down. But here is the deep insight. You must master the difference between the nominal exchange rate, what you see on the board, and the real exchange rate, RER.
What's the RER tell us?
The RER tells you the truth. It adjusts the nominal value for relative inflation. It says, how much of a typical basket of goods can my dollar actually buy in my home country compared to the US? If the nominal rate rises, but local inflation is rising even faster, that leaky pipe corrosion you mentioned in the paper, your RAR is actually falling. You're getting more bills in hand, but they are buying less real food. That's the emotional gut punch.
That's the psychological burden, isn't it? The feeling that your hard work isn't respected by the financial system.
Absolutely. The emotional cost of constantly monitoring that volatility is huge. It undermines the confidence that your contribution is stable. You feel you're always playing defense.
So let's pivot from analysis to the practical. What is the single most important thing a sender can do to mitigate this volatility and inflation?
The number one strategy, drawn straight from professional financial trading, is time diversification, or what we call dollar cost averaging the remittance.
That sounds complicated. How does it work for remittances?
It's simple. Don't send all your money on the first or last day of the month. Divide your planned remittance into 2 or 3 smaller transfers spread throughout the month. Why? Because you are mitigating the risk of sending money during a temporary low exchange rate peak. You average out the volatility over a 30-day period. It's a proactive, expert move that removes the need to constantly try and time the market.
That's an immediately actionable tip. Let's talk about long-term strategy now, because remittances, as we established, are often just used for consumption. Groceries, utilities, daily life. How do we shift some of that into investment?
This is where we shift from being just a provider to being a strategic family manager. I advocate for the 70-30 rule.
Tell us about the 70-30 rule.
70% goes to regular, bi-weekly, or monthly expenditure, the consumption part. But the 30% must be treated rigorously as savings and investment capital. This 30% needs to be protected from local inflation. If it's legal and feasible, encourage your family to receive or hold this portion in a dollar-denominated bank account or via a secure digital platform. That way, the 30% is continuously protected by the USD anchor.
And what should that 30% be used for? Not just saving, I assume.
Ideally, no. The best use of remittances is to create long-term stability and break the dependency cycle. The absolute best investment is human capital education. Paying for a university degree or a high-demand vocational course has an incalculable return on investment. It builds expertise in the next generation. After that, look at productive assets, a small business, agricultural land, or equipment that generates income, rather than a depreciating asset like a new car.
That moves the family from surviving month to month to actively building a future. I think that ties back to the psychological benefit. You stop feeling like a spectator in your own financial life.
Exactly. You start steering the course. Another crucial tip for the long-term emotional well-being and security is establishing a USD emergency fund. If your family can keep the equivalent of 2 months of basic expenditure saved in a strong currency, that's a safety net against sudden political turmoil or a sharp, unexpected devaluation. That is confidence you can't buy anywhere else.
That is incredible advice, Lena. To quickly summarize our key takeaways for our listeners. 1. Be aware of the Janus Effect. More local currency doesn't always mean more purchasing power due to imported inflation. 2. Master the real exchange rate by understanding that local inflation is silently eroding the value of your dollar. 3. Implement time diversification or dollar cost averaging by splitting your transfers throughout the month. And 4. Adopt the 70-30 rule to channel capital into long-term assets like education and productive investments, not just consumption.
Perfect summary, Alex. I would just add one final critical piece of advice. Annual provider review. Experts review their service providers constantly. Every year, you must compare at least 3 different methods: traditional remitters, banks, P2P apps, and calculate the real total cost. Don't fall for zero commission if the exchange rate spread is costing you an extra 3%. Trustworthiness comes from the data, not the marketing.
That's a powerful final thought. Dr. Lena Chen, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and transforming this complex issue into such actionable advice.
Thank you for having me, Alex. I hope this helps our listeners gain the control they deserve.
And to our listeners, we invite you to take action right now. Calculate how much real value your remittance has lost to inflation this past year. That awareness is the first step towards optimization. You deserve to retain the full value of your effort. We'll see you next week on The Global Wallet.